is going on, ladies and gentlemen? What is good? It's your boy, RumboyzRobbie. Make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe to the content. This is Fantasy Football Friendly, where I walk through all 32 teams, and we grade them on how fantasy football friendly their offense is or how fantasy football friendly their offense is not, okay? We try and keep each take with each player profile that we go through friendly. Sometimes I may or may not crash out, all right? I may or may not have a joker to go along with different players just based off of what's happening across the landscape of the NFL. Ladies and gentlemen, training camps are underway. The season is here. Trash talk has begun. It has begun. I am so excited. It's the most wonderful time of the year. Make sure you guys check out Shop GLD. I'm rocking the Dodgers chain today. We got the dub versus the Giants after a pitiful outing last night. So I'm feeling a little pride for my second home today. Had to whip out the Dodgers chain, because we winning. We winning. We got to win today, so I need to represent. Shop GLD. Link down below. Get your GLD just like me. You already know. Hey, it's about to get real cold. Fall. King of the fall. You already know your boy RumboyzRobbie. Winter's coming. You gotta stay fresh with the GLD, all right? Yo, let's get into today's episode. We are talking about the Indianapolis Colts, ladies and gentlemen, here on Fantasy Football Friendly. This is the Indianapolis Colts episode 3. You guys have already checked out the Bengals. You guys have already checked out the Lions. Make sure you go back and take a look at those. Let's get right into it, all right? First, let me take a little sip of water. All righty. So the Indianapolis Colts are a rather interesting offense when we look at them from a fantasy football perspective, all right? Because this practically fucking injury landmines everywhere from last year. So I am going to be taking a lot of that into account, and a lot of that is going to be taken into account when I'm going through my takes and when I'm going through each player profile today. We are going to start with Anthony Richardson. All right. We always work from the quarterback, start with the quarterback, and then work our way through. Anthony Richardson at QB6 is fucking crazy to me based off of him only played 4 games. And it was 2 full games that he played. Anthony Richardson was limited last year. I understand the Konami code rushing abilities that Anthony Richardson presents. But guys, there needs to be a little bit of caution here. And I am going to speak to that caution. All right. He missed the game after week 2 with the concussion. All right. He went on IR in October after sustaining a grade 3 AC joint sprain in week 5. All right. Which that had made it to where we did not see Anthony Richardson for the remainder of the season. All right. Shoulder. How he's going to come out this year with his throwing mechanics, definitely going to be interesting. Even while only putting up 4 outings, week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4, still landed as QB 40 last year. Still finished as QB 40 last year with only playing 4 games. All right. Put up 21.9 week 1. Week 2, 17.7. Week 3, we missed because of that concussion. Week 4, 29.6. Week 5, we get the AC joint sprain. Puts up 4.4. We don't see Anthony Richardson for the rest of the 2023 season. Putting him at QB6, there's going to be a lot of takes that I feel a lot of my colleagues in the industry are kind of force-feeding you this offense. Let's not do that here. The Rumboyz Fantasy Network isn't going to try and force-feed you this offense. Last year, there was a guy in our league that took Anthony Richardson 101. That dude's season quickly went down the drain. I understand because of rushing ability. I understand because when you look at, what was it, week 4, when he did put up that 29-point outing, it's like, oh, well, 29.6-point outing. It's like, oh, well, like, Richardson killed it. Richardson's good. Like, oh my gosh, like that's the upside. This is basically Anthony Richardson's rookie season. I don't know if I want my 2024 season hanging on Anthony Richardson coming back from injuries with this style of play. Everyone say that he was supposed to be this crossbreed between Lamar Jackson and Cam Newton, or Michael Vick and Cam Newton. I want to take some time and see this a little bit more. I do have Anthony Richardson on dynasty rosters. I like this offense, and more so from a fantasy-friendly standpoint in dynasty. Anthony Richardson, if you're going to go and get him, QB6, maybe a little bit of a reach for some people, maybe a little bit rich for some people. But I mean, maybe if you're looking at rushing ability, maybe you go with Jaden Daniels. Like, if that's really your concern, if that's really seriously your concern, I want to just check on one piece of data real fast for you guys. I want to see something here. Let me just take a look where Anthony Richardson went. Anthony Richardson went 110 in a mock. Anthony Richardson went 110 in a mock. 2 QB. If you're willing to pay that type of a price, go right ahead. I would maybe go a Joe Burrow. I don't get the rushing ability, but hell, it is what it is. Maybe, Kyler, hopefully Kyler's 100% bounce back. Then also has Marvin Harrison, has Trey McBride. I kind of like the pieces, for that range. Jordan Love, who is expected to get paid this year, and just the way that he played last year. I like those picks and the weapons around those type of guys over an Anthony Richardson currently. All right. I think Anthony Richardson will finish within the top 12, but with this offense, it's going to be interesting. Keeping it moving, going to go to the running back position here. Jonathan Taylor, RB5 for JT. All right. RB5 for JT in PPR formats, which I like. With Jonathan Taylor, this is a hero RB approach, a RB heavy type of approach. You are going to have to maybe, spend first to second round value. I feel, I feel like it should go, Christian McCaffrey, Bijan. Maybe you're looking at Saquon Gibbs, Breece Hall in that area. Jonathan Taylor could easily make his way into that conversation as even the top 3 RB pick. Out when we talk about McCaffrey, Bijan, I don't even mind, going Taylor, Hall, Saquon Gibbs, or Gibbs, Saquon for that matter. If you're going to get JT, I feel like you're going to have to pay up at this point because he is kind of one of the true bell cows. The depth in this backfield is basically little to none. And I'll talk about depth concerns a little bit later, and I'll get into some of the other depth pieces. Right now, the only player in this backfield that you need to be worrying about is Jonathan Taylor. I understand, he's going to be 25 this year. He's fine. In weeks 7 through 18, he handled 21 touches per game, churning out 99.4 total yards per game. That is impressive. He still managed to rank 13th in yards after contact per attempt. I love that. I love that. He's not going to go down easy. Definitely one of the best backs in the league. He's always going to be in that top 12 discussion. With running backs, when you're in that top 12 discussion week in, week out, you can go out there and you can possibly win me that week. You could possibly win me the league that week, lead me to a fantasy football championship. This is one of the prime pieces. This is the main piece. If you don't take anything away from this episode of Fantasy Football Friendly, this is the piece that I want you to be willing to pay up for. This is the piece of the offense that is the most fantasy football friendly and makes the most sense when we talk about positional value to say, fuck it, and I'm going to pay whatever price that I can to go and get them. You're not getting bell cows really anymore. Everyone is in a running back by committee. I don't think the Colts really use too much of a running back by committee, given the talent that's going to be behind them, which we'll talk about when I get to depth concerns. We're just going to go right in to the passing game here and get right into talking about receivers. Like I said, fantasy football friendly. Some of these episodes may be a little bit shorter or longer than others. Want to get right into talking about Michael Pittman, PPR formats, wide receiver 24. Pittman is good. Pittman is good. His last 3 years, he's finished as wide receiver 14, wide receiver 21, wide receiver 22. Scoring format dependent. All right. This year, ADP PPR has him around about a wide receiver 24. You may see him as wide receiver 16 at best in standard. Okay. But no one's really playing that no more. And we're not speaking to that. So for PPR, wide receiver 24, that's also taking into account he was catching passes for the most part from Gardner Minshew last year. And don't get me wrong, Minshew, you played your ass off, and I think that you're going to do great things in Vegas with the Raiders. With that aside, finished with an efficiency ranking of 23rd in yards per route run. Okay, I like it. I like it. 9th in targets, 4th in target share. Very nice, very nice. I like Michael Pittman when I talk about roster construction. Okay. I like Michael Pittman as being like a wide receiver 2 for me. All right. That's just me personally. I would, with the wide receiver talent and depending on your scoring format, I could see myself almost not drafting Michael Pittman in most cases. 4th round value on Michael Pittman. He went 4.7 in this mock that I'm taking a look at. 2 QB formats. If I could get a Devontae Smith, I'm going to take Devontae Smith. If I can get a Jalen Waddle, I'm going to take Jalen Waddle. If I can get, DJ Moore, I'll take DJ Moore. There's even 5th round talents that I'm willing to take over him. Brandon Ayuk, as soon as he gets his situation figured out, hell, come to the Commanders, baby. We would love to have you, BA. Devontae Adams, Nico Collins, Marvin Harrison Jr., Cooper Kupp, all guys that I would probably be willing to take over Pittman, even though Pittman is pretty much the only surefire option, the healthiest option in this pass game, has been the healthiest option and the most surefire option in this passing game. I get that they brought in Adonai Mitchell. I understand that Joshua Downs is there. I'll talk about that a little bit later. I'm not this passing attack, because we haven't seen what it can be underneath Anthony Richardson, isn't too sexy for me. I pretty much damn near almost fade these pass catchers as a whole. Very low exposure on Pittman for me personally. And I could only see myself running Pittman if I have him stacked with Anthony Richardson. If I end up drafting Anthony Richardson, let's say Anthony Richardson falls for me, I'm like, damn, a lot of people saw my take on Anthony Richardson. Now he's fallen. Here in my home league, I gotta go up, put a sticker on the board. Let me grab Richardson. Okay, that now sets it in motion to where I know that when I need to go and get a wide receiver 2 later on, that I am gonna, match that up, dress that up. Richardson, Pittman, of course, with having other talent, maybe like a Stephon Diggs, a Garrett Wilson ahead of Pittman when I'm building my roster, a Puka Nacua, etc., so on and so forth. Like I said, there's just other players that I'd much rather have in that wide receiver 20 to 30-ish range, so to speak, than Michael Pittman Jr. when we look at ADP for 2024. But great wide receiver 2. If he's on my roster as a wide receiver 2, I have no complaints. If you're picking him up as a wide receiver 1 on your roster, every other fucking receiver pick after that you pick has to hit for you, basically. I wouldn't want him in fantasy football leading my receiving core. And now we're gonna get into the tight end. I'm gonna jump straight into the tight end, and then there's gonna be some other pieces throughout the team that I'm gonna talk about. Jelani Woods, I'm gonna keep it short, simple, and sweet. Tight end 29. We didn't really see too much of Jelani last year, Virginia boy, so I kind of gotta, be on the train here. Me being Virginia being my birthplace. He dealt with some hamstring issues, that kind of kept him out. That kind of kept him out last year. In 2022, he ranked 14th in yards per route run. So, there's definitely something there. I don't know. I worry about this one. This one hasn't fully developed into what we're hoping it can be. And then also the depth behind him. It's like you don't really know what can happen there. It's like Colin Granson, is it Mo Ali Cox, VCU guy. It's kind of crazy. The tight end room. I almost say don't invest, fade here. Look, I talked about Mike Gesicki, who's now with the Bengals yesterday on episode 2. You can go check that out. I maybe would rather grab like a Gesicki over like a Jelani Woods at this point. I wouldn't be shocked if Jelani Woods goes undrafted in most of your leagues. So yeah. I want to talk about depth concerns before we get into giving the final grade for this roster. Depth concerns, look, if something should happen to Anthony Richardson, okay, Joe Flacco is there. Joe Flacco is virtually going undrafted for the most part. ADP basically at this point, unfathomable. No one's picking him up. It's not going to be a thing. He's on a 1-year deal worth up to $8.7 million, including $4.5 million guaranteed. Taking that Gardner Minshew role with Minshew being in Vegas now with the Raiders. We know that, look, Flacco finished QB 32, I believe. And he basically had just as many starts as Anthony Richardson did last year. And he was doing that with the Cleveland Browns. All right. So take that for how you will. Still a serviceable backup. He'll still be able to get Pittman the ball. But Pittman was catching passes from Gardner Minshew. It's not that far of a downfall. Let's see here. I've kind of already talked about the running back situation in terms of depth concerns. Trey Sermon being a RB 73. I'm not digging it. It's more of a handcuff situation. I don't even think that the Colts are digging it. I mean, outside of Trey Sermon, there's Evan Hull back there, and we didn't really see a whole hell of a lot of Evan Hull either. He's likely to be the RB2, but I don't foresee them going to a running back by committee, undraftable, someone to look out for on the waiver wire, have on the watch list, a handcuff piece. But no one's going after Trey Sermon. No one in your league is like, oh my gosh, like Trey Sermon's still on the board and it's the last round. I mean, maybe they take a late round flyer because they have Jonathan Taylor, but basically a waste of a roster spot, if you ask me. You'll probably be able to find a backup on another offense if should anything happen to JT that will be more effective than what Trey Sermon or Evan Hull either would be. So yeah, that's my take in regards to the backfield with the Indianapolis Colts. Keeping it on depth concerns. The wide receivers in the passing game are interesting. Josh Downs, wide receiver 60. Adonai Mitchell, heard it multiple ways, wide receiver 62. Okay. Josh Downs dealt with injuries last year. So that was kind of a little knock. Before spraining his knee in week 9, he was on his way to a great rookie season. In weeks 1 through 8, he was wide receiver 36 in fantasy points per game. I like that. With an 18.9% target share, averaging 2 yards per route run per fantasy points data. So, I mean, Downs seemed like he was coasting along and he had a pretty decent role as a wide receiver too. Looked like things were looking up for him. Again, though, majority of that was in part with Gardner Minshew. How that's going to look with Anthony Richardson is going to be interesting, and how that's going to look with Adonai Mitchell in the fold, who is giving us his best Amon-Ra St. Brown impersonation by memorizing the names of everyone drafted ahead of him. Wide receiver 62, who's for a kid that's a rookie, had a great year at Texas, achieving had a great season with Texas, achieving a 32% dominator rating with 11 touchdowns from 55 receptions. 6'2", 205. A lot of people say, kind of like a DJ Chark-ish. Look, if Adonai could come out, show out, improve. I like it as a diamond in the rough pick, and he's kind of the diamond in the rough for this team. I mean, as well as Josh Downs. Depth pieces, you're hoping that they can pan out. Late round pieces that you could get throughout drafts. I don't know how I necessarily feel about it. It's one of those things where, like, hey, like I ended up with Josh Downs and it ended up working out for me. Hey, I ended up with Adonai Mitchell and it ended up working out for me. I'm not going to say I'm too high or too low. I'm probably more so lower on these receivers than most. That leads us into the fantasy football friendly grade. All right. When we take into account injury issues that have plagued this team from the previous season, I get that it's a completely new season. I should look at them with a open mind and give them a fresh slate. But I do have to take that into account when I look at the depth that is surrounding. I mean, hell, even Jelani Woods, who I talked about earlier at the tight end position, with it being Mo Alley Cox and Kylan Granson that would be backups for him. Michael Pittman basically performing in fantasy football as almost like a wide receiver 2, fringe wide receiver 1A. Downs and Mitchell being the guys behind them, what they're going to do when they get their opportunities with the rock in their hand. And then Anthony Richardson's small sample size. I'm going to be honest, from a fantasy football standpoint, I'm giving them a C-. I'm giving them a C-. Stop trying to force feed me this freaking offense. Stop trying to force feed me the Indianapolis Colts as if like it's going to be this great thing. This team scares the living shit out of me. This team scares the living shit out of me. I wouldn't mind if you almost damn near faded more pieces than not of this team. You pretty much can only run Michael Pittman if he's stacked with Anthony Richardson, I feel. I mean, if you are going to run him naked, then it's as a wide receiver 2. You're not building around him as your wide receiver 1. This offense doesn't afford that, I feel. The tight end situation sucks to me, in all honesty. And outside of Jonathan Taylor, if anything were to happen to him, this running game falls off a fucking cliff. So without Anthony Richardson, nothing pretty much moves and shakes with this offense. It now becomes super reliant for them to win football games on their defense. C- for the Indianapolis Colts. It is what it is. It is what it is. I wouldn't be surprised if I look at this. If I look back at this offense, I'm like, they're the reason why the rum is always gone. That's my take. This has been Fantasy Football Friendly. C- for the Indianapolis Colts. You're only drafting 3 pieces from this team. That's Richardson, Taylor, Pittman. And you're worried about the productivity of Pittman without Taylor. And then it's just, it's all weird. It's all weird. Fade this team. C-. Fantasy Football Friendly. I'll catch you on the next episode. Dilly dilly. Cheers to me. Cheers to you. All the Rumboyz and girls. What to do.
Holy shit.